imagine that your pain body, well, what example shall we use? Shall we use the cicada that drops its whole outer shell, making
Yes.
all this noise, and you can hear them this time of year where I live. You can really hear them droning, 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 droning. Um, they don't have brains really, but they drone and drone and drone and drone and drone. And then in the droning process, they, like insects do, they metamorphize and they drop their complete shell, and they become another version of themselves. A butterfly is different because a butterfly or moth, they spin a cocoon, and all of that transformation happens inside the cocoon, which they weave themselves. Okay, now the cicada drops this, and I can walk around in my garden, and there'll be this little empty shell of a bug. How have you seen it? It's really interesting. Empty shell of a bug, and they're just there's no more bug in there, and they're just kind of laying there on the sidewalk wherever you find them. Complete. It's a complete shell. So I'd like you to think about that as your pain body. That living in the 3D construct from the moment you were born, with the frequency dynamics that happen in the 3D construct, you were constructing an entire shell around you, complete. And you are, by the time you're 20 years old, you're completely encased in it.
I learned so much from you all. Okay, so I would, I guess I got to start at the beginning. My pain body started early, being a boy circumcised shortly after birth. I would say I got a quick, hard shell to start with, as most men probably do. And then growing up in the Midwest, being a Boy Scout, around other boys in the church, I think I was taught pretty quick that one, my sensitivities and my compassion weren't really valued generally by the men around me, or not personally in my own family, but just in general from the society around me. I was taught that those weren't important, but what they taught me was that I needed to embrace the pain I was going to experience in life. And I think I took that lesson on pretty quick in Boy Scouts. You're out, you're doing rough things, you're in nature a lot, and it hurts. Sometimes you stub your toe or roll your ankle. I remember rolling my ankle 6 times on one hike, and luckily I had boots on, so I just left my boots on and then dealt with it when I got home. But I quickly learned to embrace that kind of pain and just accept it, because that's what I was growing up in. And I think my early life was defined by some really significant trauma, starting out when I was born, and then at the loss of my sister when I was 16. She was 19, and that was really sudden and immensely traumatic, and an incredible amount of emotional pain. So I think I got a really significant pain body early on, and just accepted that, believed that that was what I was going, in for on this life. And I can see how I defined myself by these things. I defined myself by what I'd survived through Boy Scouts. Nothing horrible, but pain nonetheless. And through, I definitely defined myself for a long time through the loss of my sister. And I wonder if I wasn't just carrying my own pain, but also my family's. I think I carried a lot of pain from my family. Seeing my parents go through that, I feel like I gave up an immense amount of my childhood right then to try to stabilize my family. And I think there's really some key points. I think Anastasia mentioned releasing relationships, like as you start to get an awareness of the pain body and you start to get the release. I think that definitely is very visible through relationships. It was for me. Like, you just don't fit in the relationship, or the relationship doesn't fit you, or the frequencies are just different, or whatever it was. There was a key point in my young adulthood, um, where I decided I could define myself how I wanted to. I didn't have to define myself by these traumas and by these pains that had been handed to me. I really had nothing to do with. I just was part of, and and that really felt like, what was it you guys said? This decision to redefine my story and myself, uh, it sort of granted me this ability to end a certain perspective on my life and end a particular definition of me and completely step into a whole new me. Like it really, it does feel like I shed, and I've done this numerous times through my life. I get to a point where I'm just done with what I'm doing and I shed and I quit whatever that was and I define a new me. And it's a really distinct process in my life, and I can see the difference. It's night and day difference stepping out of something. Like one example of that would be when my daughter turned 9 months old, and my wife and I are very new, very young parents at the time. Wife at the time, her mother. And I was definitely angry and frustrated and hurt, still in that place of defining myself through my traumas and traumatic experiences and my survival. And the day my daughter turned 9 months, I just had this awakening, this awareness that I have a 9-month-old daughter. I want to be here when she's 16. I want to be here when she's 45. I want to be here when she's 60. And I quit smoking that day, and it'd been 15 years I'd smoked really heavily, and that it was cold turkey right then. Just that awareness that I want to be here, that this person needs me. I could, I just stopped, and it was just this clear off switch. I'm done with that part of my life, and so that's a nice clear example for me that I've done this. But also coming out of that relationship, creating the space I wanted to be as a father, as a parent. Um, those all really feel like I let go of defining myself a particular way. I let go of particular behaviors that were not helpful. I let go of an immense amount of pain. I definitely went through a period where I was rolling or nearly breaking both my ankles for months. I had to walk with a cane for a little while because it was so bad. Granted, I was doing this because I was trying to do gymnastics, and every time I'd run on a spring floor, I would roll something. It was not good. So I changed my practice and it helped. But I was just I don't know why I was causing myself to do, pushing myself that way, but I was learning how to reground or something, but letting go of that pain body there's definitely key points throughout my experience where a trigger happened and I just split and ran, leaving this huge shell behind. Like, that's not me anymore. A lot of people think that's still me. They look at me and think that they're looking at that shell. And I'm like, you don't even know me. Like you really never did, because you were interacting with this crust that I didn't even know was there for a long time. And then I walk out of that crust and leave it behind, and they're like, oh, look, it's David. Like, no. So, um, I don't know. That's a really interesting analogy. Even the cicada, I definitely grew up with those and was always fascinated with the shells. We'd play with them and, you know,